I knew something was wrong the moment the host looked up from the podium and asked, "Still expecting a party of 5, sir?" I smiled reflexively and nodded. "Yes," I said, even though deep down I already knew the answer should have been no. "My name's Daniel. I'm 33 years old, and that night I sat in a quiet booth near the window of a modern Italian restaurant in downtown San Diego, dressed better than usual and checking my phone like I was waiting for a blind date. Except I wasn't. I was waiting for my family. I ordered a drink I didn't want, sparkling water with lemon, and told myself they were just running late. That's what families do sometimes, right? A little late, a little chaotic. But they show up especially when it matters. And tonight mattered. After nearly 10 years at the same construction engineering firm, countless overnight deadlines, and 1,000 silent sacrifices, I had finally landed the promotion I'd worked for since I was 24. Senior Project Director. The title wasn't just a bump in salary or a new office. It was a badge, a win. It was every time I stayed behind while my friends traveled. Every time I skipped birthdays, barbecues, and weekend plans to finish a proposal that no one else wanted to touch. And I wanted to share it with the people I thought would care most. I'd invited 5: my mom, Carol, my younger brother, Cody, our cousin, Rachel, and Uncle Tom. All the ones who used to call me the reliable one. The ones who cried when I surprised Mom with a reliable used car after hers broke down. The ones who said I was the glue holding the family together when Dad passed away unexpectedly 3 years ago. But there I was, alone. 10 minutes passed, then 20, then 45. Still nothing. I refreshed my messages again and again, pretending I wasn't growing cold inside. I tried calling Cody, then Mom. No answer. An hour and a half later, I waved the waiter over and ordered the entrees anyway, too embarrassed to leave, and too stubborn to admit what I already knew: they weren't coming. I sliced into the steak, took a bite, and stared at the untouched chairs around me. That's when my phone buzzed. It was a group photo, big smiles, wine glasses, sunset in the background. Mom, Cody, Rachel, Uncle Tom, all gathered at a beachside grill I didn't recognize. Cody was front and center, holding a new key fob in one hand and standing next to a jet ski. The caption under the photo read, "To the real success story in the family. He earned it." There was no mention of me. And that was before I saw the earlier text from Mom sent exactly an hour before that photo. "You're not exactly a priority right now. We'll catch up soon. Enjoy your dinner." I sat there for a long time after the message. The steak on my plate had gone cold. The celebratory dessert I never really wanted sat untouched beside it. I looked at the empty wine glasses surrounding me, meant for people who never intended to show up. The restaurant bill was $1,780. I added a generous tip, 25%, not because I felt good, but because the staff had been kind enough to pretend they didn't see how alone I was all evening. And somehow that gesture of quiet dignity mattered more to me than all the empty congratulations I'd received in past years. I walked out slowly like someone leaving a funeral and drove home in silence. No music, no calls, just the soft hum of my engine and the throb of something breaking wide open in my chest. When I got home, I didn't turn on the lights. I dropped my keys in the bowl by the door and sat on the edge of my bed with my phone still in hand. Then I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I went through old messages, photos, and transactions. Every grocery run I paid for. Every just until Friday transfer I sent. Everywhere in a tight spot. Can you help call that ended with me wiring more money than I ever got back? Every time Mom told me Cody's still figuring things out. I was the problem solver, the fixer, the one who picked up the pieces quietly while the others made the messes. After a while, I got up and walked into my home office. I pulled up the shared mortgage account I had been silently funding for nearly 3 years, ever since Dad passed and the house almost slipped into foreclosure. $1,730 a month auto-deducted from my paycheck on the 12th of every month. Never late, never missed. No one ever thanked me. No one ever asked if I was okay footing it. It was just expected. I stared at the screen for a full minute. Then I opened a new browser tab, clicked on the bank's live chat assistant, and typed, "I need to cancel auto pay on mortgage account ending in 7831. A few identity verification steps later, it was done. I grabbed a sticky note from the drawer, scribbled 5 words in all caps, and got in my car. Drove 40 minutes to the house I hadn't stepped foot in since Easter, parked on the curb, walked up to the front door, and taped the note right above the handle. Let him pay it now. No knock, no dramatic goodbye. I turned, got back in my car, and drove away with my phone on silent. Back home, I lay in bed fully dressed. The note still burned into my mind, my jaw clenched so tight it ached. The weight of 1,000 small betrayals pressed down on my chest, but for the first time in a long time, I didn't fold under it. I let it sit. By morning, I had 81 missed calls. Most from Mom, a few from Cody, 1 from Uncle Tom, and 3 from Rachel, the last of which simply read, "Call me now, are you serious?" But I didn't respond. I just stared at the missed calls like puzzle pieces, each one trying to assemble an apology that hadn't arrived yet and probably never would. And that's when I saw the voicemail icon blinking. My thumb hovered over it. I knew listening would make it all too real. But curiosity won. I stared at the blinking voicemail icon for a long time. Part of me didn't want to hear their voices. Texts were easier to ignore, colder, more detached. But voice made things feel human, and I didn't want to feel anything more. Still, I tapped play. The first message was from Mom. Her voice didn't sound like the woman who raised me, the one who used to sing softly while washing dishes, or beam with pride when I brought home a straight-A report card. This voice was sharp, frantic, almost accusatory. "Daniel," she snapped, "what did you do?" "I got a call from the bank this morning. They said the mortgage payment bounced. I don't understand. Why would you cancel it without telling us?" She took a shaky breath. "You knew we were counting on you. Your brother just finally caught a break, and now you're being spiteful." Then, like a badly written soap opera, her voice dropped into a trembly whisper. "This isn't how family behaves." I replayed that line. "This isn't how family behaves." Over and over until the irony became unbearable. The second voicemail was from Cody. His tone wasn't surprised, it was annoyed. "Dude, come on," he began. "This is messed up, Mom's freaking out. You could have just talked to us, we were gonna figure it out. We just needed a little time." A little time. I'd been paying the mortgage for 3 years, but sure, I should have waited longer. The third voicemail was Rachel. She didn't even pretend to be understanding. "Wow, Daniel. So now you're punishing the entire family over a dinner? Seriously, grow up." She paused. "You always act like you're the martyr, like you're the only one who ever sacrifices anything. Newsflash, Cody's been working hard too. He finally gets something for himself, a jet ski for crying out loud, and you flip out." I actually laughed at that one, a short, hollow sound. My little job promotion had apparently been eclipsed by Cody's impulsive toy. I sat back, staring at the ceiling, letting the messages echo in my ears until the numbness settled in. No apology, no acknowledgement, just expectation. They were angry not because I'd done something cruel, but because I'd stopped doing something convenient. I checked the shared mortgage account one more time. Still inactive. No one had picked up the slack. No one had even tried. They were waiting for me to cave, like always. That had been the pattern. Mom would guilt me, Cody would deflect, Rachel would mock, and eventually I'd be the bigger person. That phrase had become the family code for clean up the mess so no one else has to. But not this time. This time I wasn't folding. I wasn't the weak one. I wasn't being spiteful. I was just done. That night after the voicemail stopped playing, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything or text back. I opened my laptop. Buried deep in a folder I hadn't touched in months was a spreadsheet titled Family Finances Backup. The last edit had been over a year ago. It had started as a way to stay organized, simple line items for the things I told myself I was just helping with. A one-time car payment, Rachel's dental bill, Cody's third business venture, Mom's electric bill when she fell behind during the holidays, a surprise vet bill for Uncle Tom's dog. Each row told a story, each cell was a sacrifice, but together it wasn't a collection of kindness. It was a quiet ledger of how I'd been bleeding into everyone else's life to keep them afloat. 10 pages, color-coded, total $80,430, 82 grand, over 5 years. Gone. No contracts, no payback, no interest, just a never-ending expectation that I'd always be there with my wallet open and my mouth shut. I stared at the number until it didn't look real anymore. Then I opened a blank document and typed the title, What I Owe Myself. It wasn't just money I was listing. It was birthdays I spent alone, vacations I skipped, the therapy I never started because I thought covering Cody's rent mattered more, the love I thought I had to buy to be worth something. Line by line I wrote until the tears finally came, not because I felt sorry for myself, but because I was finally seeing the truth. I wasn't supporting a family. I was enabling a system built on guilt, entitlement, and my silence. And the moment I stopped feeding it, it cracked. That's when I knew I had already made the right call, canceling the mortgage, taping that note to the door, letting the silence grow louder than the guilt. I wasn't being cruel. I was finally choosing me. The next morning, I woke to more missed calls. 17 this time, mostly from Mom, a few from Cody, a couple from Rachel. No Uncle Tom this time, maybe he'd seen enough. And then another voicemail notification. I hesitated, my thumb hovered over the icon again. I should have just deleted it, but I didn't. I pressed play. Mom's voice filled the room again, only this time she wasn't panicking. She was composed, controlled. Daniel, she began softly. I think you're overreacting. I know things haven't been perfect, but you've always been the dependable one. You've always taken care of things. It's who you are. That phrase again, it's who you are. As if that identity had been assigned to me without my consent. I don't know why you're punishing all of us just because we celebrated your brother for once. She continued, we didn't mean to hurt you. Then her tone shifted. But canceling the mortgage was reckless. You've put this whole family in a terrible position. We were counting on you, Daniel. And whether you like it or not, you had no right to pull the plug without telling us. That house isn't just ours, it's yours too. You don't get to walk away just because you're upset. I stared at the ceiling, fists clenched. No apology, no remorse. Just expectation again. The second voicemail came from Cody. His tone was defensive. Dude, what the hell? Mom's in meltdown mode. Rachel's blowing up my phone. The bank's been calling. We were gonna handle it. You didn't need to freak out and cancel everything. Like you're gonna make us lose the house over a dinner. Over a dinner. As if that night wasn't the final straw in a decade of being invisible. You knew we were tight on money. You always help. That's just how it works. I bought the jet ski because for once I wanted to celebrate something. Can I do one thing for myself? He didn't mention my promotion, not once. The third message was Rachel. Okay, so this is what we're doing now, she said coldly, tantrums. I rolled my eyes. Do you know how hard this is for your mom? For all of us, you're jeopardizing everything because you didn't get a little recognition. Grow up, seriously. Everyone works hard, Daniel. You're not special. Cody's been hustling too. He finally gets a win and you implode the family over it. I laughed, not because it was funny, because it was so absurd it broke something inside me. I was imploding the family by no longer paying their bills. I was jeopardizing everything by choosing not to be used. They didn't miss me. They missed my function, my role. The role they had written for me without asking. The next few hours were quiet. I ignored more calls, muted the family group chat, and sat in silence with my thoughts. But that silence wasn't empty. It was filled with clarity. The problem wasn't just the dinner or the mortgage. It was the pattern. I was the dependable one, until I stopped depending on them to care. They never called to ask how I was doing after Dad died. They just needed help organizing the funeral. They never offered to chip in when Mom's car broke down. They just waited for me to fix it. They never asked if I was lonely. They just assumed I was fine because I always had it together. And now that I had drawn a line, now I was the villain. The selfish one. The traitor. But deep down I knew the truth. I wasn't betraying them. I was finally choosing to stop betraying myself. That afternoon I logged back into the shared mortgage account. Still nothing. No one had attempted a payment. No one had called the bank. No one even sent me a message asking how to take over the responsibility. They were waiting for the old Daniel to return for the familiar reset button they had relied on for years. But I wasn't coming back. I clicked through a few settings and selected the option to close the account entirely. Reason for closure. No longer responsible for this obligation. A simple sentence, but it felt like slamming shut a door that had been left open far too long. Afterward, I opened the spreadsheet I'd titled the night before What I Owe Myself. It had started as a joke, a way to cope, but now it was a reckoning. On one side, I listed the tangible $1,730 month mortgage x 36 months. $450 a year for Cody's car insurance, $200 to cover Rachel's dental surgery, $6,500 in temporary loans that were never temporary. On the other side, I listed the intangible, 4 missed birthdays, 2 canceled vacations, 5 holidays spent cleaning up other people's messes, endless emotional labor labeled being a good son. There was no total. There didn't need to be. This wasn't about getting paid back. It was about finally seeing the debt I had buried under the word love. I sat back in my chair and stared at that document, not out of bitterness, not out of resentment, but with a strange, unfamiliar peace. For years, I had been the emotional accountant of my family, tracking obligations, measuring my worth in what I could give, constantly recalculating whether I was doing enough. Now I had a different question. What if enough was finally enough? I didn't need to argue anymore, or prove anything, or wait for someone to acknowledge the cost. I had done more than my share, and I was done. That afternoon, my phone rang again, but this time it wasn't Mom or Cody or Rachel. It was Uncle Tom. I stared at the screen for a second longer than usual. Uncle Tom wasn't the emotional one in the family. He didn't send guilt texts. He didn't yell. He rarely said much at all unless things got seriously out of hand. And judging by the missed calls and voicemail storm, I figured that moment had arrived. I picked up. "Daniel," he said, his voice low and steady, "we need to talk." I stayed quiet. "I'm not calling to lecture you," he added. "I just wanted to understand." I exhaled slowly. "Okay, what do you want to know?" He sighed. "Your mom is a mess. Cody, and Rachel's doing her dramatic thing. But they're all saying the same thing, that you blindsided everyone, that you're burning the bridge." I leaned back in my chair. "Tom, I didn't burn anything. I just stopped being the bridge they walked across." Silence. Then he chuckled softly. "That's a hell of a line." "It's the truth," I said. "For years I've covered everything. The mortgage, the bills, emergencies, last-minute crises. I let them put me in that role, and I didn't question it until they made it crystal clear I didn't matter when I wasn't useful." He was quiet again. "I get it," he said finally. "I think I've known for a while, just didn't say anything." I appreciated the honesty more than I expected. "She texted me during my promotion dinner, Tom," I said, my voice tightening. "She told me I wasn't a priority. Then they all went out to celebrate Cody's new jet ski like it was a Nobel Prize." Tom let out a breath like he'd been punched. "She said that, word for word." He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "They've got 30 days before the house defaults. Carol's panicking. Cody's scrambling. No one has a plan." "Neither did I replied, "but I figured it out. She's scared Daniel." So was I. When Dad died and she called me crying about the house, I didn't hesitate. I took over without question. I stepped up and they never looked back. Tom didn't argue. He just said, "So what now?" I paused, then answered, "They've got 30 days, like anyone else would. And after that." I shrugged even though he couldn't see it. "That's up to them." He didn't try to change my mind. Maybe because he knew he couldn't. Maybe because deep down he agreed. It was almost 8 p.m. when the knock came. I wasn't expecting anyone. I hadn't spoken to anyone outside of work in days. I peeked through the peephole and sighed. Michelle. She stood outside in a fitted blazer, arms crossed tight against her chest, like she was walking into a courtroom. When I opened the door, she didn't wait for an invitation. She marched right past me like she owned the place. "We need to talk," she snapped. I stayed by the door. "About what?" She turned sharply. "About this little tantrum you're throwing." I raised an eyebrow. "Tantrum?" "You're hurting your mom," she said, pointing a perfectly manicured finger at me. "She hasn't slept in days. Cody's a wreck, and Rachel said you've blocked her number. What are you trying to do, punish the entire family?" I leaned against the wall. Calm, cold. "I'm not punishing anyone, Michelle. I'm just done with what she challenged, being a decent human." "No," I said, "being a convenient one." She scoffed. "You always act like you're the victim, like you're the only one who sacrifices anything." I tilted my head. "Did you pay a single bill when Dad passed?" "Were you there the night Mom called me sobbing about the foreclosure notice?" She didn't respond. "Exactly," I continued. "You all benefited from my silence, my consistency. The second I set a boundary, you call it a breakdown." She shook her head in disbelief. "Daniel, he bought a jet ski. So what?" "He finally did something for himself. That's not a crime." No, I agreed, but pretending that's a milestone while ignoring my actual achievements, that's the problem. She narrowed her eyes. This is about your promotion. It's about the principle I said, about a family who throws a party for the guy who never pays rent, while leaving the one who held them together alone at a dinner table for 5. Michelle took a step closer. You know what your problem is. You want to be the hero. You want everyone to worship you for the things you chose to do. I smiled thinly. You're wrong. I don't want to be the hero. I just don't want to be your safety net anymore. She paused, scanning my face, maybe looking for a flicker of guilt or regret. She didn't find one. They're your family, she said finally, a last attempt. They were, I replied. Now they're just people I used to pay for. That one hit. She froze. There was no dramatic exit, no shouting, just silence as she picked up her purse and walked out the door. And for the first time, I didn't feel like chasing after her. I didn't feel like apologizing. I didn't even feel angry. I felt clean, like the fog had finally lifted. Outside, I heard voices, loud, familiar. I looked through the window. Cody, pacing, phone in hand, Mom in the car rubbing her temples. I didn't move. I wasn't the one who needed to fix it this time. Michelle lingered at the door for a second, maybe waiting for me to follow her to say something that would make it all okay again. I didn't. Eventually, she walked off into the night. No goodbye. No slam of the door, just the sound of old expectations crumbling. The next Saturday, just past noon, a horn honked twice outside my building. I was sipping coffee on the balcony when I looked down and almost choked. There it was, a jet ski, strapped neatly to a trailer behind Cody's oversized black pickup parked diagonally like it owned the lot. And standing beside it, my mother holding a Tupperware container and wearing that same cardigan she always wore when she wanted to look soft. Cody paced back and forth, gesturing like he was practicing a speech. Then the knock. 1, 2, pause, then again louder. Daniel, honey, Mom called through the door. We brought something to talk. I stayed behind the peephole, heart steady. Cody chimed in. Man, we're not here to fight, just open up. We want to make this right. I watched Mom take a deep breath, step back, and look straight at the door. I know you're in there, she said, her voice that mix of concern and command I knew too well. You've made your point. We're sorry, okay, but don't throw away your family over one mistake. That word again, one mistake. As if forgetting your son's biggest achievement. As if excluding him from a family celebration. As if draining him financially and emotionally for years was just a small misstep. And here they were, showing up not with an apology, not with ownership, but with a $9,000 toy like it could buy back trust. I didn't open the door. I didn't say a word. I just watched them through the peephole, Mom fussing with the casserole container, Cody looking irritated that no one had come outside to admire his gift. After 10 minutes of standing awkwardly, Mom knocked once more. Please, Danny, at least let us explain. But I'd heard it all before. And I finally understood they weren't here for me. They were here to fix the problem, the mortgage, the fallout, the system they'd leaned on for too long cracking beneath them. They hadn't come to apologize. They came because they were afraid. Afraid of losing the house, afraid of facing consequences, afraid of living without the cushion I had always quietly provided. Eventually, Mom dropped her hand from the door, sighed, and whispered something to Cody. He looked up at the window once straight at me, maybe sensing I was watching, and then climbed back into his truck. The engine started. The trailer creaked. The jet ski, shiny and useless, pulled away. And just like that, they were gone. Not a single tear. Not a single "we were wrong." just the low hum of a truck disappearing around the corner. I stood there a while, still holding my coffee, now lukewarm. And for the first time in a very long time, I didn't feel the urge to chase after anyone. Not them. Not the past. Not even the version of me who would have caved. The next day was payday. For the first time in over 3 years, my paycheck hit my account without the giant silent deduction for a house I didn't live in. No auto withdrawal, no split account, no invisible obligation draining me before I even had a chance to see the total. It was all there, every single cent, and for a moment I just stared at it. Not because it was a huge number, it wasn't, but because it was mine. Money I didn't have to feel guilty about. Money I didn't have to send off in the name of family unity or just until things stabilize. There was no text from Mom, no reminder from Michelle, no guilt trip call from Uncle Ted. Just silence. It should have felt lonely. Instead, it felt like air after holding your breath underwater for too long. I treated myself to a nice breakfast at the cafe down the street. Ordered the avocado toast and the fancy oat milk latte. No checking my account before tapping the card. No mental math trying to figure out how to stretch what's left. I ate slowly. I looked around. I smiled. Later that day, though, the silence cracked. It was a call from a number I didn't recognize but knew all too well. The bank. Mr. Whitaker, the woman said, polite but strained. We're calling regarding the mortgage for the home on East Willow Drive. We've attempted to process the payment twice now with no success. Is there a reason for the delay? I waited, let the question settle in the space between us. I'm not the responsible party, I said calmly. The homeowner is Jane Whitaker. You'll want to contact her directly. There was a pause. Then the woman asked almost with surprise, She told us you handled all the payments. I used to, I replied, not anymore. And just like that, I ended the call. That evening, the knock came again. This time it was just my mother. No Cody, no casserole, no jet ski. She looked different, smaller somehow. Her shoulders hunched like the weight she always pretended not to carry had finally settled on her. Daniel, she said softly. I stepped aside, let her in. She walked like a guest, slow, unsure, like she was searching for proof that she still belonged here. Her eyes scanned the room, and I knew what she was looking for: photos, reminders, evidence that I still thought of her as family. There were none. I gestured toward a chair. She didn't sit. We're going to lose the house, she said, voice cracking. I figured. You could stop this, you could call the bank, one payment and… No. It was quiet, final, like a locked door she hadn't expected to find. Her eyes filled. What? I'm not calling the bank. I'm not making any more payments. I'm done. She blinked once, twice. This isn't just about money, she whispered. This is about family. I almost laughed. Mom, you texted me during my promotion dinner to tell me I wasn't a priority. Then you threw a party for Cody because he bought a toy. You called that family. I call it a joke. I didn't mean to hurt you, she whispered. But you did, and you didn't care. Until the bill stopped getting paid. We stood in silence. She finally sat slowly, like settling into the truth. I didn't know how much you were covering, she said. That's the problem. You didn't want to know. She wiped her eyes. Cody's not like you. He needs more help. No, I said firmly. He needs consequences. She looked up, broken, exposed. Not as a mother, but as someone who had mistaken silence for strength and generosity, for obligation for far too long. I didn't think you'd ever walk away, she said. I didn't walk away. I just stopped being used. She opened her mouth, closed it again. What are we supposed to do now? I shrugged, figure it out, like I had to. When she stood to leave, there was no hug, no plea, just one question. Is this really the end? I paused. It's the end of me pretending this was love. She nodded, said nothing, and walked out.